Hi guys, welcome to this week's show and our topic. Once again, I'm Kim Picciotti, Cosmos, Dr. Cos, as everybody calls him, because he's just the knowledge man on training and cooking and all the things. So we figured we'd give him a PhD, so we call him Dr. Cos. That's kind of how that all kind of got there. He's our know-it-all. Anyway, we are doing this week on potatoes. We're going to be talking about, are they good? Are they bad? Should we eat them? Should we not? Should they eat them? Should they not? Do you think you should have potatoes? You can give me a high five? Thank you. All right, why don't you lay down? I'm going to talk to them. You can take your hat off. Very good boy. You can take your hat off or going to leave it on for a little bit? We'll see what he wants to do. Anyway, let's get going here. I learned a lot this week. I actually spoke with, I knew the hat was coming off. I actually spoke with a canine nutritionist, and her name is Monica Siegel, and she has a very, very different perspective. I didn't expect it, I guess, in all this research that we're doing on the nutrition. You know, as I said, I took the nutritional course, being a chef, know a little bit about nutrition for people, but really kind of learning and exploring, just as we're sharing with you, the knowledge of nutrition for dogs. And what we can do to make it better, what we can do. And what I learned from her was she approaches her nutritional consultations very much like we approach our training here at Training Canines, and that's as an individual. Every dog is an individual. Every dog's needs are an individual. And I mean, I guess, like, knock on wood, it didn't dawn on me that that really wasn't the case. Here I am trying to generalize and make a simple thing so everybody can understand, but yet nutrition isn't a simple thing that anybody can understand. All we can do is take it step by step, and I'm glad that you guys are on this journey with us and going with us to learn all the things that we're learning. So I was kind of glad to see, like I said, that she hits it individually. I mean, a dog, you can't formulate for a dog if you don't know exactly what that dog needs or what kibble they're on or whatever. So all that comes, we'll talk about a little bit more about that as we're going to get going, because we are making homemade pasta. We're going to make homemade gnocchi. We made homemade chicken sausage. So we're going to do that up. So we're going to kind of talk as we go. I think that that's going to be a little bit easier today, so we don't end up dragging this video out where you guys get bored. Nonetheless, we're talking about potatoes. We're talking about sweet potatoes, and we're talking about, well, for example, the regular russet potatoes. What's the difference? Nightshade, and this is not. Totally two different species of potatoes. And it has a very totally different effect on your dog. So with no further ado, we're going to use the sweet potato because it is the better of the potatoes, and I'm going to tell you why here. But first of all, we are going to start with, I used 1 pound of potatoes, and what I did was I baked them and I skinned them and I cooled them. So I'm just going to pop those right into the food processor here for us. And then I'm going to pop in 1 egg, as long as I don't get any shells in there. And then I'm going to pop in 1/3 of a cup of ricotta cheese. And you can use, I used the skim ricotta cheese, but you can also use the whole. I think the skim's a little bit better for the dog. So depending how much of this you're going to give your dog, it will be. And pardon the noise here for a second, but we're going to let this blend. All right, I think we have that. We'll give that actually a little bit of a stir as well to kind of go through it. And that basically is going to be our wet ingredient of our dough. Get this out of here. And I have a spatula around here somewhere. What did I do with it? There it is. Sometimes I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached. I think we all get that way sometimes, though. Not you, Kaz. I know you don't. You're a good boy. I just wanted to make sure that this was pretty much well blended. And it is. So first thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to put in 1.25 cups of my flour into my bowl. And once again, we're using oat flour, not all-purpose, keeping it so it's gluten-free. Now with this, though, we're not going to add our arrowroot because we're not worried about it. It's not a cake or not a bread or something like that that we need to worry about it binding and basically going through the temperature changes in the oven, because we're actually going to boil this. Seasonings, you can add what you like. I'm just going to put in about a teaspoon of basil, I'm going to put in a teaspoon of oregano. These are always my go-to spices for everything. And we've talked about all of the great things that all these spices can do for your dog and for you as a person in the past in our different recipes, but it still will be in that, and a little bit of garlic powder. So I'm going to kind of put that in there first. Get this out of my way. I need lots of room today because we got pasta to make. Right, Cosmos? And homemade pasta is like super, super easy. People, I think, get scared of it, but I don't know. I guess to me it's just super easy. Okay, all right, so as you saw, we put our potatoes, we put our egg, we put our ricotta cheese. I put all that in there. And I'm going to get this all out of here as much as I can. All right, so now all we're simply going to do is our fold over method that we always learn. And I said there was 1.25 cups of the oat flour that I put in there. Now you may need a little bit more if there's a little bit moisture into your potatoes. And actually what happens is it started out to be like a pound, I think it was 1.3 ounces, 1 pound 3 ounces. And it had, for our raw tomatoes before we baked them, and I think they came down to about 13 ounces already cooked. So they lose their moisture and they lose some of their weight as they do. So don't worry about it being too exactly whatever, because we're kind of just going to go here for getting whatever gnocchi comes out of this batch. And I can already tell this one's got a little bit more moisture into it, that I'm going to have to add a little bit more flour into it. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to roll them. I'm going to make ourselves some room here first a minute, get this food processor out of here, and then we can get going talking more about all the glycoalkaloids in our russet potatoes. And a glycoalkaloid is actually something that a white potato makes, but a sweet potato does not make. And what it is it's like nature's natural way of it fighting off the pests. So the potato makes it, and then this way the bugs won't eat it. Very simple. There's another thing that you want to make sure that if you do eat russet potatoes or white potatoes yourself, make sure you don't get them that they have a green tint. And there's so many times you go in the store and I see them with a green tint. That's actually a toxin called solanine, or solanine, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And that is something that actually can make you nauseated. They say white potatoes have the ability to cause leaky gut. There's a lot of different things that kind of come from white potatoes. You know, if you see that your dog has a lot of GI issues, you see that your dog is, maybe throwing up a lot, check his food. See if there's white potatoes in there. Because a lot of times what happens is the companies use them for fillers. So it could be in your kibble, and it could be an underlying cause of why your dog may be having some of the issues that they are. So back to our gnocchi. Very, very simple to do. As I said, we're going to put a little bit more flour on top. And just to give that going, what I'm going to do, boy, I need a lot more flour in that one. This was really moist out, I think because they were a little bit warm. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm just making logs. So I'm going to make logs. I'm going to dust off my area here. Kind of put that way. Then I'm going to go through, and I'm going to roll these all up, and then I'm going to be right back, and I'm going to show you how we roll them on the gnocchi board and how we cut them all up. So go watch an empowered puppy guide. When you're working with your puppy and you're giving them treats, a lot of people say, well, I don't want the dog to get a treat. I want the dog to do it just for me. Well, guess what? The dog's not going to. You're not going to work for free, and the other is the puppy. So what you need to do is when you give them a treat, make sure that you're praising the dog as well. Because what you're going to do as the dog gets better on doing that specific command, you're going to give them the lesser of the treats, but you're always still going to give them the praise. So what you're doing is you're kind of playing the lottery. You're putting the dog where he doesn't know what you're going to do, so then that in turn makes the behavior stronger. And that's just another Empowered Puppy Bite. All right, guys, we are back. I got all my logs rolled out, very easy. And you don't have to be super precise with this. It's pasta. They can be big, they can be little. You try to get that general size and so forth because you want them cooking the same. But this is what they call a gnocchi board. And you can see it's got little grooves in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that. So I take a piece off like this. I roll it on the gnocchi board. And then you see the little ridges in there. And what the little ridges are is so that is able for the sauce or whatever you put on it basically to be able to absorb faster, or kind of grip itself, I should say, not absorb faster, but grip itself to the pasta that you're having. So I kind of put them up that way, and then I cut them up in little ones. And then we take a little bit of oat flour and we sprinkle it on our pan, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do what they call is flash freeze these. And I'm going to place them in the freezer so that they get frozen before we boil them in our water. Because I just feel like, I know that they cook better when they're all the same exact temperature. And what happens when you roll them like this and you cook them completely fresh, straight, I mean, that's great if you're doing it in a restaurant scenario, because a lot of times the temperature is right there. But a lot of time home cooking, you've got all different kinds of temperatures going on in your house, in your room. This one could be, you know, at 10 degrees different, but then what's going to happen is it's going to cook different once the timing, as far as you may get a soggier one, because we're going to just pop them in the boiling water and just have them come up to a float, which is really only anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. So it's really, really very, very quickly. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit as I'm kind of doing this, because this is, like I said, super simple and we'll go really quick. In the sweet potatoes, they have what they call carotenoids. I think I'm saying, pardon my pronunciation on some of this stuff if it's not right. I'm not the best on that as it goes. But what that is it basically is what forms the orange color in sweet potatoes. And it makes it so it's very good for the immune system. It helps, one big thing, with viral infections. So that's a great thing. But one thing that you do want to make sure that you don't give your dog sweet potatoes is if your dog's got a lot of yeast infections and so forth, because it doesn't, I guess the carotenoids and all that kind of stuff seem to enhance it, so it's kind of full of that. So I wanted to talk back a little bit about what I learned from Monica this week when I spoke with her. And what her service does is she actually formulates, I should say, comes up doesn't sound right, formulates the proper diets for dogs, whether they have a certain type of a illness, or if it's something, even if it's just a healthy dog. And she even does puppies, which is something that I'm going to actually talk to her further about and see if she can help us with our puppies. I would love to be able to offer our new puppy owners kind of like a go-home thing that they can have and say, okay, this is what you should watch, and they can, go further with consultations for her. She calls it Kibble Plus. And what she does is she'll take your kibble that you're feeding your dog, because as we were just talking about earlier, every dog eats a different kibble. So how do I know how much carbohydrates your dog is already getting, or how much, the fats and the proteins and so forth? And all that makes such a huge difference in what it is that you're trying to do and trying to feed your dog. So she basically takes it and goes through and puts it all into perspective and tells you what you should do and what you can add to your kibble, if that's what you choose to do, or if you actually want to go a plain old home cooked meal for your dog or whatever. Once again, our meals, this is stuff special for a treat. This is something we're not saying this is what you should be feeding your dog every day. And we want to make sure that everybody does fully understand that. Now, Dr. Dodds feels 25% is what you can replace kibble with home-cooked meals like this, and not worry about a balance factor, where Monica doesn't feel that way. She feels that it, maybe 10%. I read another site, actually our food that we use for our puppies, the kibble that we use is called Brothers, and they feel 20%. So I think that it's just a matter of, as we said, that we've talked about this whole thing, everybody, I'm getting ahead of myself here, everybody is just talking about the learning factor, and everybody is kind of doing the research, because this is so new. I mean, think about it. 10, 15 years ago, all we did was, go to the grocery store and buy dog food. Now we've got all this controversy, and what about this and what about that, and hey, what are we going to do? Another study I came across this week was one that I'm really very, very interested in. And it's about large breed puppies. And obviously the interest is because that's what we do here with, the Berners, the Golden Retrievers, and the Labs and so forth. And what that said was that we need to supply our large breed puppies more with higher antioxidants when they're little, because what happens is they can't fight off the free radicals. Like, I guess all puppies start off with the same amount, but the large breed uses much more of them. And I'm wondering if we can put more antioxidants into that large breed's diet at the time when they're growing, is that going to help? You know, is that going to make a difference down the line? Will that make it so we can make large breed dogs like Cosmos, who Burner's life expectancy, you know, range anywhere from, you know, 6 years up to, you know, 10 years or something like that. So, you know, it's all a matter of what we can find and what science has done. I mean, look at the remarkable progress that science has made just for even, you know, ourselves and cancer and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to finish these up. I'm going to pop them in the freezer, and I'm going to let them go for a little bit, wait for our water to boil, and then I'll bring it back. We'll pop those in the water, and then we'll talk about our chicken sausage and get that going. So go watch another Empower Puppy Bite. A lot of people, once they get their puppy, they get so excited because they want to go walk their puppy. And while that's great, don't rush the walk. And the reason that we tell people not to rush the walk is inadvertently you're going to end up teaching your dog to pull on that leash. That's the number one problem that we hear from people is my dog pulls on the leash. What you want to do when you pick up your dog, walk around in your backyard, let him drag the leash. Let him get used to it. Let him get used to being with you. When you take him out and you start pulling, they start pulling, all of a sudden, doing that a few times, you've got a dog that's pulling on the leash. And that's just another Empower Puppy Bite. Hey guys, we are back. And this is what gnocchi looks like flash frozen. And like I said, I do this with all my pasta. Unless I'm making noodles or something like that, I'm going to do it immediately right away. But if I'm doing something in bulk or I'm doing something for a party or something like that, I always do it this way because they cook up perfect and it works. We have, at Christmas time, we always do like homemade ravioli, or we'll do the gnocchi or something like that. So it really works when we have as many people as we do for Christmas. Nonetheless, we're waiting for our water to boil. When we do, we're going to pop that in. Next thing we're going to talk about is our chicken sausage that we made. And I made this up ahead of time because I didn't want to have to deal with all the raw ingredients and so forth here on the camera and kind of show you, because that's a lot of washing your hands because you don't want the cross-contamination. Very, very simple, made in the food processor. And we took 2 chicken breasts. We took 1 pound of chicken. I take that back. 1 pound of chicken breasts. We took 2 apples, about the size of this. 2 apples. And remember, apples are great for your dogs. In fact, if an apple a day, what it does is keeps ear infections away. But you want to make sure that you never give them the core, never give them the seed. You can put the peel in it. In here, I didn't put the peel. I peeled the apples first and then put it plain. But we are going to put some apples to saute for our sauce for everything. And then we used kale, which kale is great on chlorophyll. And that helps. It's like if you have in meat, you have carcinogens, and especially the way that you cook meat. So what the chlorophyll does is it binds to the carcinogens in the meat, and then your body won't absorb it. So it does very, very well for that. And that's people and dogs. Remember, a lot of this stuff is interchangeable because we're using what we eat and what they can eat. You know, you go read the bags of the dog food, they're putting a lot of this stuff in, but they're balancing it, and that's what is the key. That we want to make sure it's balanced. So that's why, like I said, this is special occasion stuff. This is, hey, you want to just come home once a week and have a meal with your dog, sit down. It's awesome. It's about the relationship. It's about spending time with your dog. It's just something else to do. Foodies, hey, you can cook with your dog. Your dog loves it. Nonetheless, we threw in a little bit of fennel seeds. Fennel seeds actually are wonderful for their GI tract. Wonderful for gas. Helps if you've got a dog that's tooting all night. Those types of things. It's wonderful for the puppies, even from the standpoint of fennel seeds. So we put some fennel seeds in there. My standard oregano basil's always got to go. And of course my garlic powder. We just use a little bit of that as well. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of saute steam it. I know that's kind of a weird thing to do, but what we're going to do is we're just going to use our electric skillet. And we're going to throw in a little bit of olive oil. And we're going to use a cookie scoop to kind of like sausage balls. Because basically, chicken sausage, this is like it without the casing. So we're just going to make almost like actually I want to make them a little bit smaller than that because I want them to be kind of bite-sized pieces for us. And you can see how much this made. There's no way we're even going to use all of this. But we're going to get this going in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop the lid on top of it, and we're going to let it kind of steam. So it's going to get a little bit brown, but we're not looking for it to get real brown because we want to do it more steaming because that's the better way to cook it. Remember that low and slow from that standpoint. And we're just going to scoop all this up like this. And we're going to do 3 servings. So, boy, this really made a lot. I probably could have done a half a pound of chicken and 1 apple. I didn't anticipate this much. See, even people that do this a lot make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. That's what we just got to learn from them. And like I said, this whole thing with the nutrition with the dogs is really what it is. You know, the other thing with the sweet potatoes and white potatoes, the comparison is the glycemic level. And that is huge for, you don't want to like bulk your dog up with the white potatoes, and what happens is the glucose absorbs into their bloodstream way faster, which in time can actually cause a dog to be a diabetic, can cause a person to be a diabetic. So the sweet potatoes get absorbed much better or much slower. And the reason that they absorb slower into your blood system is because they have a lot more fiber in them. And the fiber makes it so the glucose doesn't give you the blood spikes like it should do. So check your dog food, see what your dog's eating. I think I'm gonna kind of call it quits on that. We'll let that pan go a little bit here. Our water's just about boiling, but I want this to go for a few more minutes before I pop that in, because remember, like I said, that's only going to take us about anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to go. So we're going to get this going. I'm going to steam it up a little bit, and we'll be right back. We are back, guys, and we made a giant family style today since I had so much extra food. I guess I'm cooking for 2 Cosmos instead of just 1. So we just put it in a big bowl here. So we're going to dish it out, but you can get the recipe at empoweredpups.com. We hope you learned a lot this week about potatoes. As I said, we're just trying to help you, inform you about different ingredients that you can use and things that you can use as far as taking those ingredients and making them into treats. So now we've learned that sweet potatoes are good for our dogs. Maybe you make some treats for them, or maybe, like I said, maybe you make the whole meal, but you know that they're good for them. You know what they can do, how they can help your dog. But once again, always make sure that you check with your vet. If you've got, one thing I learned from Monica is different breeds have different requirements. For example, schnauzers, they always have, problems with oxalate and so forth. So you don't want to give them the spinach, or you don't want to give them some of the other things. So you always have to make sure that you're breed specific, weight specific, activity level specific, so you can see how complex it really, really is in order to figure out the best nutrition for your dog. What we make here, we know is good for him. So he's a little impatient with us right now. He just laid himself down like, can I please have lunch? So we're gonna go, we're gonna give Cosmos lunch, but thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week. Good, Cosmos? You like it? Very good. Do I get a high five? Huh? Do I get a high five for that one? What do you think?